What's up, everybody? It's Reinforced back with another week of Power Rankings. We had an incredible week of Overwatch behind us, and now we're going into the May Melee tournament. It's going to be all kinds of fun. So, here are my Power Rankings going into the May Melee tournament. Obviously, circumstances are changed a bit because regular season games are just not quite the same to actual elimination playoff games. So, an exciting week of Overwatch ahead of us, and let's take a look at the rankings. So, first of all, thank you so much to everyone who sent tweets and engaged in our new Ask Reinforce segment. I'm going to get to that segment later on, but I really appreciate all the tweets and all the support you guys have been throwing this YouTube series. That goes for the YouTube comments down below as well. I really appreciate it. I read it, I promise. But yeah, let's go into the power rankings because that's what y'all are here for. So let's talk about the Asia games a little bit first. Yeah, so number 3, going into the May Melee tournament, I can't say that enough, we have the Guangzhou Charge. And this is a team that has been very impressive as of recent. I think they have incredible star power on this team. I've been really impressed with the dive compositions coming out of the Guangzhou Charge. That's when they look at their best, in my opinion. Now, they did play some more Ashe-type compositions this past weekend, and it was obviously a bit different. I wouldn't say they necessarily struggled, because Chengdu looked very good on the Wrecking Ball composition. But number 3 for the Guangzhou Charge, because I recognize that they have been playing pretty well. But at number 2, we have the New York Excelsior, and they are the big boss. They are the big boss, in my opinion, because they can play so many versatile compositions, throw so many looks. They have experienced players, great individual skill, and I think you have to take that into consideration going into the May Melee tournament. I think that while Guangzhou has looked good these past few weeks, and I recognize that New York Excelsior, in my opinion, they are the top dog. They are so very good at all these different kinds of compositions, and they have the star power, and they have the experience of playing in so many playoff scenarios before. So you can throw, the meme about like, oh, New York, they choke and all that good stuff. Well, actually, they haven't really been choking as of recent. I think they look really good in playoff scenarios. So, New York, I am a bit more scared of New York going into the May Melee tournament than I am of Guangzhou Charge. So therefore, I made the choice of putting New York at number 2, and I know all the New York fans who are very passionate about their New York team really appreciate that. So there you go, New York fans. There you go. Anyway. Number 1, Shanghai Dragons. No surprise to anyone, really, because this is a fantastic team. They've just showed strength for like the past month now. Arguably the best team in the league, I would like to say anyway. So they are by far the number 1 favorite going into the May Melee tournament for the Asian teams. I would be very scared of this team. A team that no one wants to face. You want to make it as deep as possible without playing Shanghai, essentially. That's the way I'd like to look at it. So, obviously number 1. But for the North American region, we have some change-ups, okay? Because this is a team where a lot of teams are hovering in the middle of the pack, and I can't really decide where they all go, because every week they keep disappointing, or, like LA Gladiators, or they keep, just keep performing, so they rise a bit, like the Paris Eternal. Paris Eternal, number 3 in this week's rankings, because I think they've showed a lot of consistency over the past few weeks. That more than most teams can say in this kind of region. You look at a team like Atlanta Reign. I think Atlanta Reign is a good team, but they haven't really shown consistency as of late, and therefore a team like the Paris Eternal sort of triumph over them and are put number 3. I think it's sometimes we actually underrate the Paris Eternal, and I think we look at their roster and we say, well, these names aren't that impressive, like Nico, Ben Best, No Smite, like they're not really standout names. But the fact of the matter is, they have been performing the Paris Eternal, and I think they show some consistency. They did take a loss to the Florida Mayhem, dating back a few weeks where they lost 0-3. I don't think that was necessarily the best week possible for the Paris Eternal. But apart from that, I think they've looked stellar, and I would actually be pretty scared going into the May Melee tournament with Paris Eternal being able to play all heroes in the game and play what they are the most comfortable with. So I would look out for them. That being said, they are obviously going to disappoint and prove me wrong, like all other teams. Anyway, number 2, the Philadelphia Fusion. And look, they are a fantastic team. They can throw so many different looks. I think the most impressive thing about the Philadelphia Fusion, apart from their star power of Carpe, etc., is the fact that they can adapt in-game and show so many different looks. I really appreciate that with a team, that when you can have someone like Fury go from a Diva to a Sigma to a Wrecking Ball all in the matter of like the next team fight, that makes a world of difference, because a lot of these Overwatch League teams going into fights, they look for advantages, and Philadelphia Fusion, they always find an advantage in the composition game, and that's what I really appreciate about Philadelphia. So Philadelphia could be super scary going into the May Melee tournament, where you can play all the heroes in the pool, because they can just play their comfort picks and they can adapt to whatever they want with no restrictions. That's going to be really scary for Philadelphia, so watch out for this team. Number 1, the San Francisco Shock. This was by far like the most hotly contested topic dating back to last week's video where I put San Francisco at number 1, and I did it this week too. I'm going to spend more time on that later when we get to the Ask Reinforce segment, because obviously a lot of you asked about it. But at number 1, I put the San Francisco Shock because I think that they are sort of the reigning champions, and I think they have showed in so many times that they are good in playoffs. And I think going into the May Melee tournament specifically, they are so good at their comfort picks. And you could look back a month or so when they lost to the 2 LA teams, and you know, they didn't play the most optimal compositions. They weren't really allowed to thrive on the heroes that they like to play. I get that, right? But going into the May Melee tournament, I'm really scared of this team because their peak potential, San Francisco's peak potential, when they get to pick the heroes they want to play, they are super scary, right? I think Rascal's Echo is actually a pretty big talking point, because we saw this past week, right? All the hit scan were back in the mix. We saw the McCree, we saw the Ashe, we saw those picks. But Echo still saw a lot of playtime because you have that Brigitte armor pack. So actually, Echo actually matters quite a bit going into the May Melee tournament, and that's why Rascal being on the San Francisco Shock is a huge talking point and really something you have to emphasize on. So San Francisco number 1 because of that. So as we appreciate my nice tiger shirt, it's my favorite shirt. I hope you all like it. Let me know down in the comments if you like my tiger shirt or not. Maybe we can have a poll or something. I don't know. Anyway, the Ask Reinforce segment, thank you so much for all the engagement on Twitter. I really appreciate it. I read all the replies and I picked out a few favorite questions of mine that I want to talk about. If you want your questions featured in the next episode, obviously use hashtag AskReinforce, tag me on Twitter @Reinforce, and tag Overwatch League @Overwatch League, and maybe you'll get your tweets featured in the next week's episode. So let's jump into it. For my first question, it is Spider Wasp. Why did he put San Francisco over Philadelphia? So let's talk a little bit about it. So we're going into the main Melee tournament, and it's elimination games. It's a playoff format. So I have accounted for that a little bit in my power rankings. Usually, I don't try to predict, you know, the format of the next games. It's regular season games, right? So usually the past week or the past 2 weeks, they influence the rankings the most. But now we're going into the May Melee tournament, so I'm doing a bit of a one-off here where I consider how teams perform in playoffs and how I think they will actually turn out in the May Melee tournament, with hero pools being, you know, just open for interpretation. You can play any hero you want. So a bit different this time around. And I put San Francisco Shock at number 1 because they are the reigning champions and because they are so good at playoff performances. Now, dating back to last week, that argument wouldn't have worked because, of course, we didn't have the Melee tournament. But I still think that you have to look at San Francisco Shock as sort of the reigning champions until someone dethrones them. I don't really think you can say that you are better than the San Francisco Shock. It's very hard to do so. I think, again, like Rascal and Echo, it's an incredible force to be reckoned with. I think that San Francisco Shock has the highest peak potential when they get to play their comfort picks. You can talk all you want about Philadelphia's decision to be able to adapt mid-game, throw so many different looks, they have so many different players, they can play so many different styles. But ultimately, I think San Francisco Shock has the higher peak potential, and going into the May Melee tournament with no hero pools, Shock are just allowed to play their best compositions and play what they are the most comfortable with, and I think that's super scary. I would not bet against the San Francisco Shock in this tournament, because now they can really dominate on the heroes they are good at, and they are good on so many different heroes. So I think San Francisco has the highest peak potential, whereas Philadelphia, obviously with a great record in the back, they're just solid and consistently great with so many versatile looks. So until Philadelphia dethrones San Francisco, I think it's a bit unfair to judge this number 1 or number 2 spot based on past performances against middle-of-the-pack teams or bottom teams. I think San Francisco Shock look great in their peak potential, and therefore I've ranked them at number 1 instead of number 2. For our next question, comes in from Sigge. Do you think Dallas have a chance to climb high in the power rankings? Now, I'm actually quite bullish on the Dallas Fuel. I think they are a fantastic team. I think they have a lot of individual skill on this roster. We've seen that with Decay, Doha, even Crimso, in my opinion. His Ana is pretty fresh. The problem for Dallas Fuel, in my opinion, has been the fact that they struggle to play the right heroes. I sometimes they just throw looks that I'm not too comfortable with or too sure of if they can really flourish with that. I really like the dive compositions coming out of Dallas Fuel. I think when they put Gamsu on that Winston and they put Decay on the Tracer, that's when they look the best. But in my opinion, Dallas Fuel, they need to show more performances where they play different kinds of compositions. They can slow the game down and they can play fast, adapt mid-game. we're not really seeing these strategic or tactical necessities coming out of Dallas Fuel, in my opinion. I think they look really good when they can play their comfort heroes, but in this case, it's not really enough. So yeah, they have the potential to climb high in the rankings, but until they show versatile gameplay, it's really hard to put Dallas Fuel high in the rankings. So I want to see more from them for sure, but they do have the individual skill. Now, for my last question, it's from Crossfire. Do you think Kuki can make Florida a playoff contender? I've noticed some weak points have definitely improved in the past few months, even with the Easter games. Yes, Florida Mayhem are looking a lot better, and so they're climbing in my rankings a little bit because I like what I'm seeing from them. They're showing many different looks. They're putting Yaki on the Tracer. They're playing other kinds of compositions, and yes, I know there's weaker opposition. They have had a very easy strength of schedule as of recent, but they still look really good in my opinion. According to the eye test, the teamwork is there, the team cohesion is there. They're reducing their mistakes in their gameplay, and I think it really shows, and that's why they're so consistent. I definitely think they can climb higher. I like the foundation they're building, the fact that they can play so many different kinds of compositions. That's a great sign, something to build on, and so I think Florida Mayhem definitely have the chance to climb higher and could be a playoff contender down the line later in the season. You know, Gangnam Jin, Gargoyle, Yaki, these are great players, so given the fact that they have a great strategic foundation, something they can build on, I definitely think Florida Mayhem will improve. So that's it for my Ask Reinforce segment. Thank you so much for all the engaging tweets. If you want to be featured in the next episode, make sure to use the hashtag AskReinforce on Twitter. Tag me at Reinforce and tag Overwatch League at Overwatch League. Thank you so much for watching this week's video. I hope you have a great week ahead of you. And don't forget to tune in to the May Melee tournament. It's going to be incredible. So many exciting games. And I'll bring you my power rankings next week. For now, though, take care. Much love, everyone.